It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noah Layden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noah
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. It's Tuesday, January 6th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Cloudy day on the way. Warmer than it has been. The high is going to be 40. And then tonight and overnight, the clouds hang around, low 38, and even warmer for Wednesday. Sun and clouds, the high 50. Pull out the shorts. If you're walking out the door with us right now, it is 33 cloudy in Bayville out on Long Island, 32 cloudy in New Brunswick over in New Jersey, and it's 30 and cloudy right outside our Midtown studios.
This is the Top 5 at 5.
All right, what's next for Nichola Maduro, who sits in a Brooklyn jail cell? Governor Hochul claims congestion pricing is a hit. Mayor Mamdani wants to tackle junk fees. A Brooklyn man describes the moment he was hit in the head with a shovel. Ouch. And a Long Island grandma has a huge rat collection in her home. All right, let's get into it at 5:01. We'll start in New Jersey, where police trying to figure out what was going on inside a home in Piscataway. A man with a machete shot and killed last night in a chaotic confrontation with police at his home. After he was shot, police discovered 3 dead victims inside the house. Now, cops responded to this home. It was River Road about 5:30 last night after receiving a 911 call about an individual who had a knife. So they asked him a number of times, this individual, to put down that machete. They tased him at first. He came at him, police say, and that's when they shot him. The neighbors heard the gunfire in what is normally a quiet neighborhood and say they were pretty shocked by it all.
I was pretty much just about to start making dinner, and then I just heard the cops come next door.
Was it scary?
Yeah.
Well, of course it was. When police arrived at the scene, an unidentified man charged at them with this large blade. They deployed their tasers in response. Unable to stop him, the machete-wielding man continued to move towards the officers with his weapons. That's when he was shot and killed by police.
I looked outside the window, and they had their weapons drawn, and then we heard the shots go off.
Okay, so this is what we're being told at this early hour, that there were 3 people found dead inside the home. We do not know what happened to them, whether they were shot or stabbed with that machete. It was 2 grandparents. Those are among the dead. The third person, the third victim, they have not been identified. The cause of their deaths has not immediately clear. Neighbors know the grandparents. They also know this person who had the machete. But they say things seem normal in the house.
Very nice lady. Yeah, nice, sweet lady, yes. Very nice, quiet neighborhood, and it's just a tragic if something like that happens.
And you can imagine people in the neighborhood a little more than just freaked out. The incident, they say, was isolated, and cops let nearby neighbors know that as quickly as possible, that once this person with the machete was taken down, they were okay. Reached out to the Middlesex County Prosecutor's Office for more information. They say they are still investigating this deadly incident. We'll release more information possibly a little bit later this morning. While we're in New Jersey, not too far away, a student and a driver injured when their car crashed into their high school in Elizabeth. It happened at John E. Dwyer Technology Academy. That's on Pearl Street. Elizabeth police say they first spotted this car driving kind of erratically on Bridge Street. They ran a red light and then drove over the curb onto the sidewalk before hitting the exterior wall of this auditorium. There were students already at school. A student in the auditorium suffered a minor leg injury.
Pretty crazy. I never thought it would happen, I was like, it looks like a movie scene here.
Everyone's in shock because they didn't think that would happen. First day back in school after a week. Yeah. It's a lot.
Yeah, students in class say they learned about what happened through social media. It wasn't from their teachers. They say it flew around on their phones very quickly. School officials say that auditorium that was hit by the car sustained pretty significant damage, but they were able to still hold classes yesterday.
There was smoke everywhere, and I saw teachers. There was teachers and some students. They looked distressed,
I didn't really know how big the hole was. I mean,
We were inside. We didn't know what happened. They wouldn't tell us anything.
Now, we don't know a whole lot more about this except that the driver suffered what appeared to be minor injuries. The cause of the crash, that remains under investigation. 504. Deposed Venezuelan President Nicholas Maduro pled not guilty at his arraignment in Lower Manhattan yesterday, claiming he's a prisoner of war. A defiant Maduro professed his innocence, claiming he'd been captured and kidnapped and that he's still the president of Venezuela.
I think what President Maduro said in court speaks for itself.
That's Maduro's lawyer, Barry Pollock, speaking after the visit with the judge yesterday outside the Manhattan Federal Court. People waiting outside both sides of the issue, wanting to have their voices heard. Some saying they're just jazzed, excited, thrilled that Maduro is no longer in power. Others upset at the U.S. government for taking him out of power.
Well, this is a happiness that it's difficult to describe, right? Because we were working hard to show to the world what's a reality in Venezuela.
I understand that the Constitution allows the president the ability to take military action. I also think that essentially starting and ending a war does not fall within that ability.
Now, security around the courthouse was incredibly tight. You may have seen the video where they were walking Maduro and his wife into court. They were shackled. Police presence continues to be very tight around the Brooklyn prison where the Maduros are being held.
Right now, it's not over. The Venezuelan regime is still there. They have different crazy people that we have to take care as well.
I think there are two sides. There's people who are celebrating because it's the end of an era. But on the other side, there's people protesting because we know the interest of the U.S. It is to get the gas and oil of Venezuela.
Now, it was interesting to watch just the thousands, tens of thousands in the street in Venezuela celebrating yesterday, many going screaming USA and Donald Trump's name. Over at the UN, a little bit of a tougher day. America's ambassador to the UN defending the military actions in Venezuela in an emergency Security Council meeting yesterday. U.S. Ambassador Mike Waltz says Venezuelan President Nicholas Maduro's re-election was a sham, and he noted 50 other countries had refused to recognize him as the nation's legitimate leader.
Maduro unlawfully refused to peacefully cede power after the Venezuelan people voted him out of office in the 2024 election.
Waltz argued Maduro was the head of a vicious narco-terror operation that peddled drugs. It was working to destabilize the Western Hemisphere. He says the rest of the world should be happy about what America did.
He is the head of a vicious foreign terrorist organization, Cartel de los Soles. Members of this council, colleagues, the United States wants a better future for Venezuela.
So several members of the UN Security Council condemning the U.S. operations in Venezuela during this emergency meeting yesterday. France's deputy UN ambassador said the capture of President Maduro chips away at the foundation of international order.
The military operation, which has led to the capture of Nicolas Maduro, runs counter to the principle of peaceful dispute resolution.
Now, the U.S. was not surprised by what was going on in the Security Council yesterday. The UN Secretary General said the Trump administration violated the UN Charter. The Colombian ambassador said the U.S. is undermining international peace and security. Meanwhile, Russia, China, calling for the release of Maduro and his wife.
The military operation, which has led to the capture of Nicolas Maduro, runs counter to the principle of peaceful dispute resolution and runs counter to the principle of non-use of force.
And the Danish UN ambassador kicking in as well, Christina Marcus Larsen, saying that her country deeply concerned by the U.S. operation.
Independent of the situation in Venezuela, these developments constitute a dangerous precedent.
But back down in Washington, they weren't backing down. FBI Director Kash Patel speaking about the federal drug trafficking charges that Maduro faces.
Venezuela acted not only as a large and massive transshipment point by air and by sea, but also allowed drug traffickers to operate with reckless abandon inside their borders. And their direct target of deployment was the United States of America.
And the FBI director saying they won't back down. They'll continue to target drug traffickers no matter where they are.
We're not done. We are not going to just stop because of this monumental victory. We've got more work to do behind it, and the FBI is going to continue leading that charge.
So Maduro had that brief meeting with a judge, and then he was brought back to the Brooklyn prison where he is being held, where there were more protesters yesterday. Now, those are people celebrating. No shortage of reaction from the Venezuelan community who say they envision a path forward for their people, and they say they're glad Maduro's out.
Having the right leaders following, and that's what it sounds like that's going to happen. Marco Rubio was talking also, our leader, Maria Corina. There are people who are in the right path, and they are the ones who are going to put us in the right position.
It was interesting to see this crowd. Many people in the crowd saying they have family back in Venezuela, describing a way of life that deprives them of just, basic essentials like electricity, food, housing.
We don't know. This is going to be a long process, but this is the beginning. We're hoping for a new change for our country.
We want freedom, we want democracy, we want human rights, and we want our legitimate leaders, Edmundo González Urrutia, who was the president-elect.
We have 90% of poverty. We don't have electricity, bad internet, lack of food, lack of medicine. People that die because they don't have the medicine, just because the government doesn't want to get the medicines, because it's the way that they work.
But Democrats, they're pushing back down in D.C. The House Minority Leader criticizing the capture of Maduro. Press conference yesterday, Brooklyn Congressman Hakeem Jeffries called out the administration for taking military action.
The American people are now supposed to believe that this whole situation that has unfolded in Venezuela has anything to do with a counter-narcotics operation. Get lost.
Jeffries says the administration out of control. He says they have to answer a lot of questions about the weekend military operation.
It was military action, not a law enforcement action, despite what members of the administration are claiming. What's clear is that the administration took military action without congressional approval. There was Donald Trump just a few weeks ago who pardoned the former president of Honduras, who's one of the world's leading narco-traffickers.
Now, that military operation in Venezuela causing all kinds of problems throughout the Caribbean for people who were on holiday, of course, for the Christmas break. Many of them unable to get back home because they had to stop flights in and out for a while over the weekend. And so now the airline's trying to make up for that, and they're having a hard time doing so.
Those restrictions triggered by military operations lifted Sunday, impacting more than a dozen airports and forcing more than 1,000 flight cancellations. The disruptions piling up and causing chaos.
That's correspondent Tom Costello, who reports that more than 72 hours after the capture of Maduro, thousands of Americans remain stranded at their holiday destinations, which is probably better than being stranded here in New York.
More than 100 flights in Miami were canceled on Saturday, which resulted in baggage delivery delays and rebooking congestion in the immediate aftermath of Operation Absolute Resolve, America's attack in Venezuela. Radar shows flights steering clear of the restricted areas.
Yeah, there's nothing more frustrating than trying to get back home. Here's somebody who is trying to do so.
It's been a mess. We've been delayed more than 6 hours.
Yeah, and we're hearing from a lot of people who are still stuck in the Caribbean that it may not be till Friday or the weekend till they're back home. And then there's all the talk about the oil in Venezuela. Will we get our hands on that oil? Does that mean gas prices will come down? When you talk to people who are in the know, they say don't expect gas prices to drop or rise sharply because of what's happening in Venezuela.
Prices will go down a couple of cents every day for a week or two, and then stations suddenly will raise prices up by 30 to 40 or 50 cents. That price cycling, that every 1.5 to 2 week cycle will continue.
That's the Gas Buddy's Patrick DeHaan. He says because of short-term risk, oil prices were up slightly yesterday. He believes, though, it'll take years for the output to increase because the infrastructure in Venezuela had fallen into deep disrepair and has to be rebuilt. And U.S. oil companies are not necessarily ready to invest there unless they have assurances that everything's safe and that they'll be protected by whatever the future government may be.
Much of their infrastructure has fallen into disrepair because of years of sanctions, years of mismanagement and corruption. We're talking about essentially rebuilding a country, and that doesn't happen overnight, and that's why oil and gas prices are not likely to be impacted by what's happening in Venezuela for potentially years. If oil prices were $100, you'd probably see oil companies diving in pretty quickly, as long as the coast is clear. Because keep in mind, a lot of these oil companies had a lot of assets in Venezuela that were literally taken away from them, and they're not eager to get burned twice.
Yeah, right. So Maduro charged with narco-terrorism, conspiracy, cocaine importation, conspiracy, and weapons counts. He told the judge again yesterday through an interpreter that he's innocent, not guilty, a decent man. His wife and adult son, they also pleaded not guilty. Now, their next court appearance, it's not until March 17th. 5:15 now. Let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. Good morning, Justin Ellick.
Good morning to you, Noam 11. Start here on the hardwood out in Detroit. The Knicks fell 121-90 to the Pistons. Jalen Brunson had 25 for New York, who lost their fourth straight game. Miles McBride scored 17, but Mikal Bridges with his 10 was the only other New York player to reach double digits. Up next for the Knicks, still host the LA Clippers tomorrow night. To the ice at the Garden, the Rangers lost 3-2 in overtime to the Utah Mammoth. Vincent Trocheck and Alexis Lafreniere scored goals, and Artemi Panarin and Mika Zibanejad each had 2 assists for the Rangers, who lost for the fourth time in 5 games. Igor Shesterkin stopped all 9 shots he faced before he left with an apparent injury with 7 minutes remaining in the first period. Jonathan Quick replaced him and finished with 14 saves. Up next for the Rangers, they'll host the Buffalo Sabres come Thursday night. Tonight on the ice, the Devils and the Islanders back in action, and they'll go head-to-head. 7:30 p.m. puck drop out in Elmont there. And head to the NFL. Some off-season firings, a flurry of them yesterday across the league. The Pete Carroll era with the Las Vegas Raiders is over after just 1 year. The team fired the 74-year-old coach yesterday after went 3-14 this season, which ended with a 14-12 win over the Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday. But before that game, the Raiders had lost 10 straight and already had wrapped up the number 1 selection in the 2026 NFL Draft. The Arizona Cardinals.
Do you think somebody will pick him up, or is he done coaching?
Who's going to go out and get a 75-year-old?
I mean, first of all, he doesn't look 75. It looks fantastic. But and people like him, right? He's a likable kind of guy.
Yeah, but it's not like he put up any real. He was a person of no consequence, really, in Las Vegas. He didn't make much of a difference standing out there on the sideline. And I'm not sure how good he looked. I don't know. A lot of games out there, he looked pretty disheveled and tired. I don't know. But, I mean, I'm not sitting around watching a full game of Las Vegas Raiders football. That's the problem.
No. I mean, I'm not shocked they got rid of him. I'm just wondering if someone will pick him up.
No, I doubt it. I would imagine he's got to be done. I mean, listen, if he's looking at his family and saying, hey, I want to go back and coach again in the NFL, do another stint here, it's like, what are you going to be coaching until you're 85? That's crazy.
Well, maybe he doesn't like his family.
That's true, too. There you go. You bring up a good point. The Cardinals, they fired their third-year head coach Jonathan Gannon yesterday, the day after a 37-20 loss to the Rams concluded their worst season of the modern era. They finished 3-14 as well, bringing Gannon's record to 15-36 in his 3 seasons as the head coach. He never reached the playoffs, while also never finishing higher than 3rd in the NFC West. And finally, yesterday, the Cleveland Browns fired head coach Kevin Stefanski after 6 seasons. They finished the 2025 season with a 5-12 record en route to their 2nd straight last-place finish in the AFC North and their 4th losing season under Stefanski. So, 2 teams, in addition to the 3 others that fired their head coaches already this season, are looking for new head coaches for that sideline. That's your sports snow, man. I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time, 5:19. The NYPD working the case after a man was stabbed to death on the streets of the Bronx yesterday afternoon.
It happened in the Melrose section just before 2 p.m. on 3rd Avenue near East 157th Street. Police say George Annan was not conscious when they found him. The 53-year-old, who lived 3 blocks from where he died, had stab wounds throughout his body and was pronounced at a hospital. No arrests so far. The investigation continues. Andrew Whitman, NBC News Radio, New York.
While we're in the Bronx, an investigation underway into the cause of this large fire in the Bronx left 2 firefighters and a resident with minor injuries. This was taking place as we were on the air yesterday. Mayor Mamdani thanking the more than 250 first responders who rushed to the scene after the fire broke out in a deli along Finley Avenue in the Claremont section, then spread to apartments above in this 5-story building.
Immense gratitude
for the first responders. We never want to see a fire take place anywhere in New York City, and we also know that when there's a 5-alarm fire and what we have seen are just 3 minor injuries, that is something to be thankful for. There wasn't a loss of life.
Yeah, so the good news is no loss of life. Coming up after 5:30, though, we're going to hear from the FDNY and from neighbors who say that this fire could have been doused faster, except that cars were parked in front of fire hydrants in this neighborhood. So we'll get in. 29 families, by the way, been displaced by that fire. The Red Cross is helping them, but we'll hear from some of them as well after 5:30. 5:21, Governor Hochul yesterday celebrating first anniversary of congestion pricing. She held a news conference and said that it's all good, that there's been extraordinary results from congestion pricing.
Traffic entering the congestion zone is down 11%. 27 million fewer cars.
Hochul joined by Mayor Mamdani, who noted that congestion pricing raised $550 million for needed capital projects, which will make commuting by bus and subway faster and more reliable. The MTA chair, Janno Lieber, said that 2025 was a banner year across the transit system with 1.9 billion trips, record on-time performance for subways. More on congestion pricing here.
More and more money can be then spent on the infrastructure that would make that commute smoother, make it faster, make it more reliable.
Now, this is the part that may all be true, but Governor Hochul says congestion pricing has given time back to drivers. That has not been my experience as somebody who drives through the congestion zone.
How does 25% faster coming through the Lincoln Tunnel sound?
I don't believe it.
Oh, let me top that. How about 51% faster coming through the Holland Tunnel?
I can just tell you that my commute is back to what it was before congestion pricing began. In the first couple months of congestion pricing, again, my personal experience is I would fly through and I thought, this is great, but that is not the case anymore. It's back to just as long as it ever has taken me to drive through Midtown through that congestion zone. While we're talking about Governor Hochul, she's looking to protect children online now.
Hochul is proposing a bill that requires social media and gaming companies to automatically default the privacy settings to their highest level for any user under the age of 18.
Kids don't have to go very far. They're finding you on the games that you go to. They're luring them into dangerous situations where they can be radicalized or groomed or even assaulted.
Location settings would also be turned off by default, and children under 13 must receive parental approval for new connections under the proposal. Right now, it's up to the parents to change those privacy settings. I'm Lisa Ritchie for 77 WABC News.
WABC News Time 523. Let's head out to Minnesota, where Governor Tim Walz pointing to his state's child care fraud scandal as the reason behind his decision to end his re-election bid.
Every minute that I spend defending my own political interest would be a minute I can't spend defending the people of Minnesota against the criminals who prey on our generosity and the cynics who want to prey on our differences.
Democrat insisted he's combating the fraud, added he would have won the election if he stayed in the race. Walz rose to national stardom, I guess, after he was picked to be Kamala Harris's running mate back in 2024. He was running for his third consecutive term as governor.
These opportunists are willing to hurt our people to score cheap points. They and their allies have no intention of helping us solve this problem. But as I reflect on this moment with my family and my team over the holidays, I came to the conclusion that I can't give a political campaign my all. So I've decided to step out of this race, and I'll let others worry about the election while I focus on the work that's in front of me for the next year.
Senator Amy Klobuchar is expected to be one of the main people who will probably run for that seat. 524, two GOP senators saying Secretary of War Pete Hegseth should be cautious when it comes to reducing Democratic Senator Mark Kelly's military rank or pension over a video where he told service members to refuse illegal orders.
Senator Susan Collins of Maine said it's not appropriate to target Kelly's retired rank or pension, while North Carolina Senator Tom Tillis criticized the move as being ridiculous. Hegseth had called the video seditious and said in a statement on X that the department's initiated retirement grade determination proceedings that will result in a loss of pay. Kelly now has 30 days to file a response to the decision to cut his retirement pay. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
WABC News Time 525. Neither Republicans nor Democrats appear to have appetite for another shutdown.
The next government funding deadline, January 31st. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer telling ABC News Republicans and Democrats are both working on spending bills that do not include a health care component. Meanwhile, the House is expected to vote this week on a bill allowing a 3-year extension of the Affordable Care Act subsidies. House Republicans already passed a health care bill that did not include an ACA extension, and both measures are expected to be worked on in the Senate. I'm Jim Roop.
526, some scary moments in Lawrence, Kansas yesterday when a man forced his way into City Hall. He was shot dead.
The intruder had entered the building, gone up a stairway, broken out a glass window in the 4th floor stairwell door.
Yeah, so police say a fight ensued between the city employees and the intruder. During the fight, an armed city employee shot and killed the intruder.
The city employees encountered him up there, and during that altercation, the 28-year-old subject was shot and killed.
Now, what was his motive? Why he was trying to break in? They just don't know yet. Police have not said if he had a weapon. 526, federal health officials say the U.S. continues to see this major spike in flu cases across the country.
Driven by a mutated H3N2 variant, which some have dubbed the super flu, infections are flaring nationwide. 29 states are seeing high or very high flu-like activity even before all of those holiday gatherings, according to the CDC.
That's correspondent Emily Ikeda. I was at the doctor's office yesterday, routine sort of thing. I was amazed how many people had masks on. I mean, on some level, I didn't blame them. Nobody wants to get sick.
New York State just reported its highest number of flu hospitalizations in a week on record. And across the country, the CDC estimates more than 80,000 people have been hospitalized amid this brutal flu season.
And when you check in with the pharmacies, they can't hold on to the Tamiflu, the cough medicine. It's all flying off the shelves.
We're going through tons of Tamiflu, the pills, the liquids, the antibiotics with that.
Now, the good news is if you're interested in getting the flu vaccination, there's no shortage of those. You can walk into your local pharmacy or doctor's office. They have plenty of that. Now, while it won't cover this sort of super bug that's going on right now, it will bring down some of the severeness if you were to capture it by having the flu shot.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam.
On 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Tuesday, January 6th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Cloudy day on the way, but warmer than it has been, the high 40. Tonight and overnight, the clouds, they hang around low 38. And then Wednesday, sun and clouds. We're going to reach a high of 50. If you're walking out the door with us right now, so happy you are. It's 33 and cloudy in Bayville out on Long Island. 32 cloudy in New Brunswick over in New Jersey. And it's 30 and cloudy right outside our Midtown studios. Governor Hochul advocates gathering yesterday to celebrate the 1-year anniversary of congestion pricing. Governor Hochul striking a defiant tone, saying congestion pricing is working and it's popular.
Everybody who told me from the president on down, you're killing New York City, nobody's going to come, traffic's down because the place is empty, no one's there. It's like, seriously? Have you been here lately?
Now, after a year of congestion pricing, tax revenue increased 6.3% in the city through November, a larger jump than surrounding counties. And office space leases, they increased over 9% year over year through October. This according to the governor's office. She says 27 million fewer vehicles drove below 60th Street over the last year, while the MTA made more than $500 million for its capital plan from the money they did collect from people who did go below 60th Street. Now, when you talk to riders and people and drivers, they say they don't totally believe this congestion pricing thing is working as the governor says it is.
I was driving and they was killing me with the congestion pricing, so they force you to go do this, and now they increase. It's too much.
Yeah, that's a woman who got out of her car because she didn't want to pay the congestion pricing fee, taking the subway now to be hit with new subway fare hikes that kick kicked in right after the new year. Others are skeptical of the MTA spending plan, despite the authority being open about where all the money is going. But the money from congestion pricing by law goes into the MTA's latest capital plan for upgrades to the system, while the fares cover day-to-day operations, most of its salaries and benefits for employees. So people questioning that.
If I knew that exactly where the funds were going and I could see the breakdown of it and it was released publicly and not something that was behind a closed meeting, I would say, maybe I could consider it being more fair.
Meanwhile, congestion pricing still faces 4 lawsuits, which were at one time 10. Judges have sided so far in many of these cases with the MTA and the toll. And you do have riders who say, who are not drivers, but are taking the subway, who say this is a good thing at the end of the day.
I think it's good for money to go to the public transportation, but at the same time, I feel like a public service should be free.
Now, the promise of congestion pricing to drivers who had to pay that $9 toll was that it would be easier to get through Midtown once it kicked in. And that was true, at least for me, in the first couple of months of congestion pricing. That's not true any longer. It is back to the old days of taking forever to get from the east side where I work to the west side to go home. 543, Mayor Mamdani's administration now going to go after companies who charge junk fees and trap people into subscription fees, which are sometimes almost impossible to figure out how to get out of. The mayor signed 2 executive orders yesterday that crack down on junk fees and deceptive business practices, in part by forming a citywide junk fee task force that will look into this. Here was the mayor at a press conference yesterday.
$5 fee here, a $10 fee there. What seems small adds up quickly, and the aggregate of all of these fees only buries New Yorkers deeper in a cost of living crisis.
Now, officials say the task force will help stop junk fees, level the playing field for honest businesses who are doing the right thing.
These are the first steps towards a future where New Yorkers know that they are getting what they're paying for, that companies are not draining their budgets with impunity.
No doubt you're like me. You've had this where you can't figure out how to get out of subscription that you signed up for. They make it very complicated to figure that out. He says that's part of what they'll do here. Officials listed a number of examples that include gyms, concert tickets, and food delivery app companies that they say have ripped off New Yorkers over the years with fees. Mamdani signed this executive orders that's aimed at cracking down on those junk fees. In a moment, we'll go up to the Bronx, where there was a huge fire yesterday, and it may have not have been as bad as it ended up being if people hadn't parked in front of fire hydrants. So we'll get into that story in just a moment. But first, 5:45, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk, and here's Justin Allen.
Thank you, Noah Maladen. Started on the hardwood. Knicks back in action last night. They fell 121-90 to the Pistons. Jalen Brunson had 25 points for New York at home, who lost their 4th straight game. Miles McBride scored 17, but Mikal Bridges with his 10 was the only other New York player to reach double digits. Up next for the Knicks, they'll host the LA Clippers tomorrow night. To the ice at the Garden, the Rangers lost 3-2 in overtime to the Utah Mammoth. Excuse me, I think I said the Knicks were at home last night. They weren't. They were out in Detroit. Quick correction there. Head back to the ice here, where the Rangers were at home. They lost 3-2 in overtime to the Mammoth. Vincent Trocheck and Alexi Lafreniere scored goals. Artemi Panarin and Mika Zibanejad each had 2 assists for the Rangers, who lost for their 4th time in 5 games. Igor Shesterkin stopped all 9 shots he faced before he left with an apparent injury with 7 minutes remaining in the first period. Jonathan Quick replaced him, finished with 44 saves. Up next for the Rangers, they'll host the Buffalo Sabres come Thursday night. Tonight, 7:30 p.m., puck drop between the Devils and the Islanders. They'll go head-to-head out in Elmont. And we'll head to the NFL here. Off-season firings coming in flurries yesterday. The Pete Carroll era with the Las Vegas Raiders is over just after 1 year. The team fired the 74-year-old coach yesterday after went 3-14 this season, which ended with a 14-12 win over the Chiefs on Sunday. Before that game, though, Las Vegas had lost 10 straight and already had wrapped up the number 1 selection in the 2026 NFL Draft. The Arizona Cardinals fired third-year head coach Jonathan Gannon yesterday as well, the day after a 37-20 loss to the LA Rams, concluded their worst season of the modern era. Arizona finished 3-14 as well, bringing Gannon's record to 15-36 in his 3 seasons as the Cardinals head coach. He never reached the playoffs, while also never finishing higher than third in the NFC West. And finally, yesterday, the Cleveland Browns fired head coach Kevin Stefanski after 6 seasons. The Browns finished the 2025 season with a 5-12 record en route to their second straight last-place finish in the AFC North and their 4th losing season under Stefanski.
You know, you saw this Ravens kicker who missed a field goal that would have taken Baltimore to the playoffs on Sunday.
Tyler Loop.
Yes. And I thought there was this video that I thought, and what's the name of the coach of the Ravens? Why am I blanking on his name?
John Harbaugh.
Yeah. So there's this great video that was released yesterday that shows the coach with his arm around the kicker as they walk into the locker room talking to him. And I thought that was nice because I'm sure he was feeling like the least popular person in Baltimore.
Yeah, as nice as you can get before you cut the guy.
Well, he's definitely going to be cut. But the coach was being a coach. He was probably saying, hey, things happen. And probably saying it more graphically than that.
Well, of course, season on the line. The guy literally calls Baltimore, the entire city.
Yeah.
The playoff.
Yeah. He's not a popular dude in Baltimore. No 2 ways about it.
No, well, going into the season, there weren't many kickers less popular in Baltimore than Justin Tucker.
Oh, that's true. I didn't think about that.
But
he has his own problems.
All of a sudden, everybody forgot about Justin Tucker because now this guy missed a big field goal.
Yeah.
There you go. That's sports for you. Yeah, that's your Sports No. I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC news time is 5:49. Nearly 100 people without a home after a 5-alarm fire in the Claremont section of the Bronx. This was burning as we came on air yesterday. Red Cross assisting 29 households. That ends up being about 64 adults and 26 kids who were no longer have a place to stay because these flames just ripped through a deli. This was on Finley Avenue and then quickly spread to all 5 floors above the deli. Here were neighbors who saw the smoke and the flames.
That's all I smelled. So you could taste it, like the fire.
Around 6 o'clock, and I can see the smoke coming out of my window. I come out to take my daughter to school like around 8, and I see that the whole building is just gone.
Yeah, so the FDNY raced to the scene. Now, here's where I'm always shocked just how awful human beings can be. So there were 3 fire hydrants that were near this building. They were all blocked by illegally parked cars. I mean, not to park in front of a fire hydrant. Now, it didn't take them a lot of time, but it took them extra time to get around these illegally parked cars to get to these fire hydrants.
Our firefighters are very good, but it does delay us. It does slow things down a little bit, and those cars that were parked on hydrants are being ticketed and towed.
And you could have killed somebody in the process. I mean, you think about just that. Seconds really matter in a fire. Mayor Mamdani, he raced up to the scene after this fire took place yesterday, too, to go after these people who block fire hydrants. I don't know how you think that's okay.
Any delay is an unacceptable delay when it comes to a matter of potential life and death. We need to do everything in our power to make it as easy as possible for the incredible firefighters of this city.
Of course. So you have, again, these 64 adults, 26 children without a home today. The Red Cross, thank God, is helping those people. Neighbors say they also, too, will try to help these people rebuild their lives.
And the people that build it, I don't know what they're going to do.
It's a difficult sight to see. And I hope the families become safe. I hope they can go back to their living standards, and I hope they can get their apartments back.
So far, there's no word what started that blaze, but it was in the deli, so you can kind of guess maybe where it started. Fire investigators are working on that. But, by the way, the worst they can do with these people who park in front of a fire hydrant, it should be a severe crime, but is tow their car and give them a ticket. But I feel like maybe you should get more for that. I mean, you're not supposed to park in front of a fire hydrant, and again, it could have been deadly. Thank God it was him. Out in Gravesend in Brooklyn, this 71-year-old man speaking out about this attack that took place. This was back on December 27th during that snowstorm we had. So he's out shoveling his walk in Gravesend, and someone for no reason comes up with their own shovel and hits this 71-year-old right in the face.
I had no conversation with the man, and our son, boom, right across my face. Painful, my brain's like a blow up, like it was wow. Somebody hit me with the shovel.
He was so shocked. He said he was stunned. He stood there for a second. His name is Vito. This happened right at Stryker Court and West 1st Street. So he hits the guy with the shovel, and then he leaves. And he said, I don't even understand why I was attacked. Nothing happened. We had a short conversation, and then he hit me in the face with a shovel hard.
My neighbors called 911, and the cops and, police and ambulance came.
He was then...
just a little bruise, whatever, but no, nothing big.
Yeah, so we now have a picture of this idiot, this dope, and we're going to put up at WABCRadio.com, hoping somebody will recognize him and turn him into police. Out on Long Island, a Rocky Point woman is facing charges after 200 rats, both alive and dead, found in her home. Laura Curley facing a slew of charges, including neglect. Legal documents, law documents describe a strong stench of urine, feces, and decay throughout this home with what they say was poorly circulated air. Now, neighbors, they knew about this for a while because they'd seen the rats in and outside the house. And, of course, if the rats are at your neighbor's house, there's a good chance they're going to show up at your house.
I feel disgusted. We're very upset.
Yeah.
I feel more bad for the rats, if anything. Like, I am sympathetic to them, really.
Really? Okay. According to court documents, Curley's 3-year-old grandson lived in the house for several weeks in these unsanitary conditions. Back in December, the child was captured on body camera footage, wearing a diaper, walking through the home, which had floors that were just covered in rat feces and urine. Rats were observed in the video freely walking through the residence. It was almost like this woman was welcoming them in.
We've always seen all the garbage out and everything. We didn't know how bad it was inside.
Yeah, so Curley now is set for a court date. She'll have to answer these charges on January 23rd. We move from Long Island out to the Hudson Valley, where police need help finding some people involved in an attack on a taxi driver in Spring Valley. This took place Sunday night. So they caught one of these people involved in this mugging right away, and he's 13 years old. So the thought is that the other two are probably right around the same age, young teenagers. And I didn't know this, but taxi drivers, maybe this is just in Spring Valley, but other parts, they have a system where they can identify or at least reach out to other taxi drivers when they're being attacked. And in this case, as this taxi driver was being attacked with a knife, by the way, and being mugged, other drivers nearby raced over to help him. Here's one of the dispatchers at this taxi service.
Since we do run 24/7, this has to be a 24/7 communication. It was very scary. So whenever we call the police, we're like, okay, here's a car.
Yes, so he was able to get some message out over his phone, and then the dispatcher was able to tell other drivers and pinpoint exactly where this attack was taking place, and they raced over. One of them tried to grab one of the kids. He was injured, cut with a knife as he was.
Dispatcher heard, and then she called the police. So then with that help with the radio, all the rest of the drivers went in and intervened.
Yeah, so that person's in stable condition, but what a hero. They raced in to try to help a fellow taxi driver. The most upsetting part, of course, is it seems that all three of these people involved, they've caught one, are teenagers. One in custody is just 13 years old.
Big shout out to the taxi community within the village. They all came together last night and were helping us with different type of video and just firsthand account.
Yeah, that's the police who said those taxi drivers did a great job. They probably have some good pictures of these individuals, just a matter of time until they catch up with them.